Welcome to the Past Present Feature Podcast. Colombian filmmaker Gala Del Sol discusses her debut feature film, Reigns Over Babel, which just debuted at this year's Sundance Film Festival. Careful not to borrow too heavily, her cinema influences include Serbian filmmaker Emir Kusturica, who directed Black Cat, White Cat, and her favorite film of all time, Children of Paradise, from French director Marcel Carné. Exploring a unique blend of magical realism, punk aesthetics, eclectic score, and vibrant sound design, Gala shares her film's themes of loss, identity, and redemption, shaped by the challenges of creating art during the pandemic. She praises the support of her family during production, the role of dreams and creativity, and the collaborative nature of storytelling. Gala speaks on the importance of trusting the creative process, the impact of expectations on artistic expression, and how your film is ultimately a subconscious reflection of who you were at the moment. Further explored is the concept that dreams, as a form of unconscious expression, can influence our waking lives and potentially manifest into real-world experiences. I watched your movie. It's crazy. It's wild. It's a wild ride. I didn't expect it to be as stylistic as it was. It reminded me of, and I don't know how this is going to make you feel, but it reminded me of Terry Gilliam's early stuff. Like Brazil. Yeah, Brazil.
I've gotten that a lot lately.
You did? You've heard that?
I've heard that before, yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's like the lens choices and like the surrealism and the magical realism, I guess, really.
But that's great. I do love Terry Gilliam. I love him. And then I love Brazil.
Yeah, he's good. What's the last thing he made? I feel like it's been a minute.
The Man Who Killed Don Quixote.
Really?
I didn't watch that one.
2018. Oh, yeah, that's the one with Adam Driver.
I think the last one I watched of him was The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Oh, yeah, Heath Ledger. Did you ever see Lost in La Mancha? Like when he tried, the documentary about when he tried to make The Man Who Killed Don Quixote the first time with Johnny Depp? Oh, this is like top 3 documentaries about making a movie.
What's it called again?
It's called Lost in La Mancha.
Oh, I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, so good. Okay, so your movie is, wait, first of all, your name is Gala del Sol?
Gala del Sol, yeah.
You say it better. You are a Colombian film director, screenwriter, and creative consultant for narrative projects whose stories revolve around fantastic realism and have a punk aesthetic with a tropical twist. That is specific. That's a pretty good combo. Can you tell me why this combo? Where does this combo come from?
It's just who I am, I guess, like when I was in college, everyone, like all the directors were like, oh, I need to find my style, my signature and so on. I'm like, it's just who you are, like what kind of movies do you like? What kind of books do you like to read? And so I like that, I grew up in Colombia surrounded by stories filled with magical realism just in daily life. And I've just always loved fantasy as well. So I guess that's just who I am. And I used to be like a little punk in college and high school.
Got you.
And I love gothic stuff. So it's just a combination of what I enjoy.
And the tropical twist element is just the Colombian?
That's just the Colombian in me.
Little spice on top?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to come with something fresh. I mean, as far as anything in this world, especially as a filmmaker, if you're doing something that somebody's already done or is doing, that's a dangerous thing. That nobody really wants to see. Like, it's nice to have a uniqueness, and your bio is like super unique. Your what you're about is very unique. And in your film, it totally, right when the movie starts, it does have such a like its own aura about it for real. Like, and it was a combination of the first thing that popped in my head was a combination of kind of a fisheye or a super wide lens or something going on there. But it was also the sound design was wild. Like the mixing is really good in this movie.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to hear that.
I mean, I noticed it right off the bat. I was like, boom, oh, this is like the next level. Where did this is a random thing that I love to start with because I've never done it before. Let's talk about the sound mix right off the bat. Who mixed it? Like, what was your kind of approach to it? And I guess, where did you mix it?
Jerry Vasquez and James Purnell mixed it at Sony Picture Studios in Los Angeles.
Oh.
Nova Theater.
I used to have an office right across the main walkway from that mixing stage. Well,
That's great.
I'm guessing it's
loved
the
it.
same mixing stage. Yeah.
I loved it. I think that's where they mix Spider-Verse and the
Hmm.
Passion of Christ as well.
Was it
It
the
was,
one with the giant screen? Did you do it in there?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh
Uh-huh.
man, that's
Yeah, it was
amazing.
so fun. It was so fun.
So many people have gone through there. I feel like so many quality filmmakers have mixed their movies right there with yours.
I was honored to be there, like I couldn't believe myself. And then in regards to the sound design, like to me it's so important because I almost treat it like a character in itself. And I want it to be that, like to me, like sound doesn't and shouldn't match reality, but like should create its own reality. And that's kind of like what we went for. Um like the movie itself, it said in a Colombia of another dimension. So we ask ourselves, like, what does it sound like? Like how do the birds sound there? And I just love in general to kind of like detail movements with sound, or like the way that characters look at something and then that sounds as well. So again, just like a sound design that will create its own reality.
Damn, that's pretty good. Pretty good breakdown right
Same
there.
with the music, like with the music, I asked my composer to create a genre, and I told him that I wanted a mix of salsa, because salsa is huge in my city, flamenco, Balkan music, and trap.
Damn, you love combos. That's nice. No, and it created this like unique thing. Like you can't put your finger on it. And I don't know much about any of those, but yeah, no, this movie has its own vibe going. Do you ever worry about combining too many elements, or do you not worry? You're just like,
Never, never. I just try to make something that I will want to watch, and I think that's the key.
totally. And right here, its natural audience. Its natural audience includes those who love world building, fantasy, magical realism, and camp. Created by a passionate team of 20 to 28-year-olds, we asked ourselves one simple question: what's the kind of movie we'd love to watch? That's you that said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's also like, when I was asking you kind of like where your style comes from, and you brought up other kids in film school or whatever, and it reminded me, of searching for your style. It reminded me of my own kind of like searching for my own style back in the day. And did you ever find yourself or others kind of gravitating at first towards more of like trying to pay homage too much to other filmmakers you liked in other movies? Or because I only ask you that because I was guilty of that until I think we all have like a different speeds as far as like our path, our journey, learning process or whatever. But as far as like, when I found my style, my comfortability, like what I need to do as a filmmaker, it was after I paid a little too much homage and made a few films that were kind of subconsciously trying to be like other films that I loved.
That you love. Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, I mean, have you experienced that?
I guess in my case, I started off doing very experimental stuff. So, and I kind of like just always like to, like do the opposite of what I'm told I should do. So I guess when I started, I was just trying to do the weirdest things possible. To be 100% honest.
No, that's
And
a
then
good
as I
method.
started learning about, like narrative structure, how to properly, like develop characters, character arcs, and so on, I made sure to learn all the rules and then started to break them. That's, I guess, why the film is what it is. And then in terms of like paying homage, yeah, but then I just steal stuff that I like, and I'm
Yeah,
not afraid to use it in a way. And I guess that the error is trying to do something like someone else instead of just like making it your own.
sure. What did you steal that you put into this film?
I stole, like, for example, the first shot of the movie is literally a painting by Remedios Varo, the surrealist painter, that's called Armonía. And I love that painting. So I just took it and made it my own and like inserted the painting into the world. But if you look it up, it's, like a direct inspiration.
I saw something else that totally immediately reminded me of Wong Kar-wai film.
Oh, yeah, the
The
secret.
shot in the motorcycle in the tunnel, which
The
was beautiful.
The secret. Yeah, that's also like just.
Yeah. No, it's great, and it's not necessarily the same shot, but it's just like, this That's a beautiful image. And like, why not do that? Because these things are going to get lost in the sauce anyways. You know what I mean? Like who's going to, I don't know what kid's going to likely, how many kids are likely going to rewatch like, you know, a Scorsese film 60 years from now, you know, maybe, but who knows? Like, let's just, I'm just saying, think about it. It's fucking crazy.
I just feel that, you know, it's important for us to pay homage to people who have inspired us somehow. And then again, you know, like to me, the important thing is just make it your own. Don't try to copy someone else because someone else is already, you know, like that person. So don't try to be like them. Just like grab whatever you like from them and make it your own. I think that's the key.
Yeah. Just be inspired, but also like do your own thing. Nice. I'm going to read the synopsis for your film. Reigns Over Babel is a bold and visually arresting debut feature from Spanish-Colombian filmmaker Gala Del Sol, a rising voice in magical realism. The film is a vibrant representation of Colombia's youth, combining magical realism with gritty modernity. It showcases visually striking sets, an ensemble narrative, bold costuming, and a genre-defying soundtrack that combines salsa, trap, Balkan music, and flamenco. The story resonates with universal themes of loss, identity, and redemption while celebrating Latin American mythos. Sound design for Reigns Over Babel was done at the iconic Kim Novak Theater at Sony Picture Studios. So talk about the universal themes of this film, loss, identity, and redemption. 2 questions, actually. Like, why those themes for you? How are they incorporated in your film?
It has to do with the way that the film was born, and it was during the pandemic. So I lived in Los Angeles for 6 years. And then in 2020, I returned to Colombia in the last plane that arrived before it closed. So I almost got left out.
Oh, wow.
But,
Was it late February? Or no, March maybe?
That was like April.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it was the last one.
You're right. I was on the first one coming back from Berlin, like February 26th or something.
It was a crazy time. My parents thought that the apocalypse was coming, and like
everything was...
Yeah, it was crazy. So I came back after 6 years in LA, and I was actually going to shoot another film that was supposed to be my first film that year. And obviously everything got canceled. I was locked in my room for 20 days because we didn't know whether I had COVID or not. And so in the midst of that chaos, I was like, okay, what am I going to do with my life? I was in the midst of an existential crisis, you know, like my film had gotten canceled. So I did theater since I was 4 years old, and I still love theater and theater actors, and what I love the most is to work with actors. So I called a friend who still moves in the theater circles of the city, and he got me a group of theater actors that were interested in starting to learn how to act for film. And so that's how everything started. And without thinking that this was going to become a feature or anything, but we just started video calling every week. And, talking about the differences of acting for theater and film and so on. And I did a series of workshops for them. And then one of the activities was to create a character. And so I gave them 2 prompts: to create a character that they always wanted to play, and to create a character that helped heal something within them.
Love that. I've never heard that approach before.
Some of the characters began to get created. And so what I did is I just met with them and started working, on the character arcs and so on. And still we didn't know that this was going to become a film. We were just, trying to cope with the existential crisis of the pandemic. And all of us at the time were between 20 and 25. I was 23. I think I had just turned 24. And so we were, for the first time, for most of us at least, grappling the idea of death, and illness of our loved ones, maybe of ourselves. And that's why the main character, La Flaca, that's death personified, of course. She's the one that crosses them all naturally. So I think the film turned out to be a reflection of what we were living and what was naturally in our minds, us, again, 20-year-olds living the pandemic. And again, it's a natural reflection of that. So obviously death is a central theme, but also, at the time I met an exorcist priest, and he told me something very interesting that subconsciously, because I just realized this a few weeks ago when I was talking about it, but subconsciously I put it into the film. And it is the fact that he said guilt is what's keeping people in the material world. Thinking that we don't deserve to be forgiven, or thinking that God should forgive our sins, like for us to be worthy of salvation. And that really struck with me. And naturally I inserted that into the film. And so, like without me knowing that it was going to turn out that way, the world of Babel, like was hell, and Babel itself was the purgatory. And all the characters start realizing that they're in hell, and then the thread, if you see closely, the thread, even though they're very different characters, the thread that joins all of them is that they are all feeling guilt off of something.
I
just realized this, like a few weeks ago. Like the film has.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, dude, like, wow, okay. And it's totally that way, I that conversation with that exorcist priest seeped into my work because that's just what was in my subconscious mind at the moment.
I love too how, like a lot of good characters in good films have these, like, call it many things, but like a ghost that's following them around from a past event that happened before this film started, right? And usually it's a guilt-ridden thing. It's like a regret or a guilt or something that's bothering them they can't resolve, they can't figure out. And usually, just like in real life, like once you start figuring out a way to not blame yourself or whatever the case may be, you start kind of moving on and feeling much better, right? So that guilt thing does make sense. That's like a very common denominator. Yeah. And then as far as, I loved how you made your the bar purgatory.
And the bartender is the devil.
The bartender is the devil. Okay. Yeah, I didn't catch that actually. Yeah, but I mean that's
El boticario. Yeah.
And it's, beyond just just that kind of it just really puts you right up in some fantastical space, which, along with the way it's shot and stylized, it totally works. But also logistically, I can't help myself, producer cap on, it must have been nice, be kind of contained in a way, right? In one central location. I mean, I guess we're moving into production now, talking about production. What did that look like for you? Did you guys shoot for a while, or did you shoot quickly, or how did that look for you? And then also, was the bar and all the rooms inside of it, was that kind of in one area, or was it around town?
We had a total of 22 locations. We had 22 locations. The bar Babel was actually shot in 2 different locations, 2 different bars that are iconic from my city. They're called La Topa Tolondra and Espacio 1060. And so we had 2 places in Babel as well. The first place, which is the Nuclear Aquarium, that was shot at Space 1060. And then the other place, which is kind of like the cabaret, where we have the drag queen dance and then the concert.
Much bigger space.
La Topa Tolondra. Yeah. So, and then My Little Pony, the kind of like the motel that also has the circles of hell, where the little people are. The motel was actually shot at a real motel that it's thematic, and people can go there in real life and spend a sexy night with their partners there.
Okay.
And it's just crazy. There's an Egyptian room, there's a polar room, the giant Venus statue is there as well.
So each room has a different kind of theme?
Yeah.
So it's the Madonna Inn. Have you heard of the Madonna Inn over here? Yeah. San Luis Obispo.
It's also an iconic location of my city. And I think it gives so much production value to the film because everyone thinks that we built all of that.
That staircase, that where the little guy comes down with I love what's the character's name? What's his name? Delphos?
Yeah.
That was some Terry Gilliam shit too for me. It was so fun and unexpected. I was like, what is happening now? But that combined with that location and the staircase and that little statue was just weird. You could tell. I would have been shocked if you built that because damn, then it's let me interview your production designer real quick, right? What's, but it was beautiful.
He's amazing anyways. Jaime Luna.
Okay.
All the apartments were built. Monet's house is actually an office building. We also rented an apartment building from the 1920s that was abandoned. And we built a bunch of the sets there. The pink set of Doña Elba. The reference was, Dolores Umbridge office from Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah. I'm a Harry Potter guy. I'm not embarrassed.
Me too. I'm a Potterhead for sure. I love it.
I'm actually reading the first book to my kid.
I'm not afraid to say it. I love fantasy.
So good.
It's so good.
And I don't ever think about making it myself, but it's so fantastic. I mean, talk about escapism, just fantasy. It's.
Yeah, Yeah, but like the thing about, for example, Reigns Over Babel is that I think it's right at the intersection between reality and fantasy. Because
Okay.
again, like the characters themselves are based, a lot of them, on the actresses' life stories and what they wanted to heal. So I think that also like gives the film like a raw energy that helps drive the narrative forward. What I did was kind of like mix that with this imaginary world that's retro futuristic tropical punk, and I had to, like have mythical characters there. So you get La Flaca, Death personified, then El Boticario, who's the devil, and then you get El Boticario's wife, Erato, who is a guardian angel for some of the characters, no?
And also just having purgatory be that middle ground as far as the story world. You have this built-in juxtaposition. You have that when you're talking about it was, magical real between realism and fantasy. Like, it makes sense because you're in purgatory, right? That's your setting.
Yeah.
And I would think a lot of that, like juxtaposition and contrast and all that, really do move a story forward. And I feel like you probably naturally just notice those things, potential juxtapositions, more and more with that even space, that story space. I would think, like you're in the middle, like this tug of war kind of thing.
Yeah, it's fun because also it's not like a dreadful purgatory, like it's literally a nightclub where people can go and dance and party. So it's again, like why can, like, I guess the question for that was like, why do we have to like think of the afterlife as like some dark place, like that's not fun and boring? Why can't there be humor there as well, and heartache,
Yeah.
and love as well? So
Yeah.
it's kind of like our world, but with mythical characters.
What was like a highlight? Like what was like a highlight for production where you're like so ecstatic and feeling so good about this movie? And then also conversely, what was something where you're like, where you felt kind of nervous and concerned about it going okay?
They're related. So 3 days before the production started, we got an email from one of our co-producers who was supposed to put like 150K, just by email telling us that they were out.
Oh, come
3 days before we started production.
on.
So obviously, like that was a big hit. And then it was pretty chaotic, like trying to get that money while we were shooting. And I ended up working with my siblings and my parents and my ADs to get that produced, like, and to get the money. As we were shooting, we shot for 6 weeks. And then just, like having the opportunity to work alongside my family in production, both my siblings do film, but then my parents, like my dad's an architect, my mom's a lawyer. It's nothing to do with that, but just like feeling their support, and then just having them go to like extreme lengths to help us get it done was
That's so cool.
Was very heartwarming, because it was not just making a film, but it ended up turning, like as a family, we want to make something meaningful.
Sure. No, I love that. And you in Sundance now too. Haha. I mean, that's nice. Silly investor that dropped out, whoever you are. I'm just kidding. You shouldn't do it because you might get into Sundance, but still, it's a funny story.
That's a funny story.
And good for your parents and your family for coming through and getting rewarded too like that. Your cinematographer, the movie's beautiful. The richness of like even like the opening scene, that apartment, the opening and closing scenes there, and then I don't know, like just talk about your cinematography approach.
His name is Sten Tadashi Olson.
Okay.
And he was a senior when I was a freshman in college.
Oh, he's from Seattle, Washington. Okay.
And his senior thesis was my first set.
Got you.
And I always wanted to work with him. I think he's so talented. He got an ASC Heritage Award when he was in college as well.
Okay.
And he was the only crazy person that I met at college that was willing to come to Colombia for 9 weeks to shoot it.
I mean, that sounds like a hell of an adventure.
He's amazing. Like he came for 2 months. Like he accepted a pay rate that was like way lower than he's used to. He put his camera, his lenses on. We shot with an Alexa Mini and like size vintage lenses. The way he interprets light, because like the first thing that he said when he got here, he's like, "Oh my gosh, I've never been in a city that has worse natural lighting."
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Why is that? Because it's like too bright, too much?
It's way too bright. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way too bright.
Okay. And very briefly, well, he's from Seattle too, which is interesting because it would remind me, that lighting up there would remind me of like the European, Scandinavian, or like, Northern European cinematographers who come off as the best, in my opinion, when it comes to their imagery, but best being a super, just my opinion. But then you think, well, damn, the lighting is so fucking good too, and are like naturally diffused in these areas.
He had to do with what we had, used a bunch of neon tubes. A lot of them got damaged. We're trying to replace them as we shot. So it was definitely an adventure. Also, like his whole crew spoke Spanish and he only speaks English. After 2 months, he was already giving direction in Spanish, which was really, really funny. But yeah, in regards to cinematography, definitely one of the big influences was Wong Kar-wai, of course.
Nice.
And we were just trying to make our own thing, where, like he grabbed some of his influences and, like inserted that into the Colombian landscape somehow with the elements that we got.
For you as a filmmaker, what's like a big influence, like film wise? And then also, is there any direct influences for this movie that you might have kind of, looked at and like got hyped up from?
Definitely my work is a mix of everything that I love. So one of my favorite filmmakers is Emir Kusturica, like underground, black cat, white cat. He's Yugoslavian filmmaker.
Okay.
I love the music in his films. I love the characters as well. They're like so raw, but also so mystical somehow. There's a film that he has that's called Time of the Gypsies, I think character-wise and music-wise, Emir Kusturica is my biggest influence. And then my favorite movie of all time is called Children of Paradise by French filmmaker Marcel Carné. It's 1945. I love that movie. It's also...
You're look at this. Children of Paradise. Les Enfants du Paradis. Don't ask me to speak anything but bad here. American English. I'm going to read the synopsis really quick for this film. Children of Paradise, 1945. In this expansive drama, the lovely and enigmatic Parisian actress Garance draws the attention of various men in her orbit, including the thoughtful mime. Though Garance and Baptiste have an undeniable connection, their fortunes shift considerably, pushing them apart as well as bringing them back together, even as they pursue other relationships and lead separate lives. Directed by Marcel Carné. What is it about this film that you love?
It also blurs the lines between reality and fantasy a lot. And it follows a group of characters that are all in love with the same person, and the stories of their lives. And it's also, I noticed that usually I build stories around places, like for example, Reigns Over Babel is obviously built around Babel. I have other stories that are built around, like my short film, Transient Passengers, it's built around this place called La Muralla Roja by architect Ricardo Bofill, which is kind of like this Escher-like staircases building. And Children of Paradise also does that in the sense that there's two theaters, a theater of pantomime and a theater of people who do like Shakespeare and so on, And it kind of like the characters move between these two worlds.
The juxtaposition right there is crazy, yeah. Like big and loud and big theatrical versus like subtle,
Definitely. And also just the way that he tells the stories and shows us the like arcs of the characters and the tragical aspect of it all, because it's all like, like star-crossed lovers. The way that he shows that and the way that he builds it, I think influenced a lot like how I structured my film.
Okay.
Like Babel, for example, it's like an upside down pyramid. It's like I start with all these stories, and then they start to join during 24 hours till they all get to Babel, where we have the climax of the story.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to talk about you developing the story of this film, but I don't want to forget about Emir Kusturica.
Yeah.
Serbian film director, screenwriter, actor, film producer, and musician. The first picture that pops up is him jamming on a guitar. He's been an active filmmaker since 1980s. He's competed at the Cannes Film Festival and won the Palme d'Or twice. Oh, shit. I mean, look, it frustrates me and it makes me excited at the same time that, like, I haven't seen any of this guy's movies. But I'm glad that we talked about it. Now I can. You know what I mean?
He also has a great band. It's called the Emir Kusturica and the Non-Smoking Orchestra.
Oh, come on.
Beautiful.
That's nice. Okay, so and what is like one of and you said Black Cat, White Cat is your favorite or one of your favorites. Time of the Gypsies,
And
Underground.
Underground.
Got
Yeah,
you. Okay,
those are some of my favorite films.
got you. And is it also kind of like a blend of realism and fantasy?
Yeah, most definitely. But like I think I will describe it as Eastern European magical realism.
Okay, what is Eastern European magical realism to you?
Well, Emir Kusturica.
All right, all right, okay.
You know, just I really think you should watch his films. You know, it's like it's
Yeah.
stories that might like might have happened. Why not? But they're so fantastical that it's hard to believe. That's magical realism. You know, like it's like reality is better than, like, or like, yeah, reality is better than fantasy in those instances. That's magical realism. And that's also, like a huge thing for Latin America. And it's what gave Latin America identity in the 1950s with all these wonderful writers, Garcia Marquez, Cortázar, Borges, that came out with stories that everyone here was just like, yeah, like that could have happened. But then seen from the outside, it's so whimsical, like it's almost ridiculous that you cannot believe it.
Yeah.
So that's magical realism.
Amazing. Nice. Educating us. That's good. Story wise, so when you're creating this story, the pyramid, the structure that you said, the upside down pyramid, how did you come up with that? What made you think of using that?
Well, actually, I started dreaming during the pandemic with the world of Reigns Over Babel. Like in my dreams, I started like seeing these two characters of El Boticario, the devil, and Erato, the guardian angel. Interesting. And it was like a common thing that it was not just one day. I like constantly dreamt of this world, and they showed me places of the city, which was my city, but in another dimension.
So you
And
have
so
vivid dreams? Your dreams?
very much, yeah.
See, I don't remember my dreams. I remember like the vibe and I remember maybe a little detail, but then it just goes away.
No way. I dream whole movies. Like sometimes I wake up and I'm like, wow, I just dreamt a movie. And then I write it down. I'm like, I need to make a script of this.
Damn.
Yeah.
What do I need to do that you're doing so that I
I
can
call
do
it the mental vomit. It's like
Yeah.
the key when you're like falling asleep, your mind starts kind of like puking things, like phrases, images, and so on. And I just keep a little notebook under my pillow that I call the mental vomit book. And I just write down everything that comes up. And also like that's a way to like never have writer's block because you just keep going back to your little book for ideas. And then I just started dreaming with these characters. And then funny enough, they showed me Babel. And Babel in my dream was a pyramid. Of course, in real life, I couldn't have that in the film, it would have been too expensive. But at least in my dreams, Babel was a pyramid with different like spaces. And that's kind of like where the idea came from. Is like, what will happen if I like join a bunch of characters in this specific spot, Like what kind of stories can I tell? And obviously there had to be a character that like, like crossed them that turned out to be La Flaca, death personified.
The actors, the way you went about casting, which I get this a lot with these interviews so far. There's a lot of like autobiographical elements that are like accessed and then used in different ways of going about casting. But like, seems like it really does help a film, doesn't it? Like to instead of building something from complete scratch and saying, here you go, act 100% act now or whatever it is. It's like you're building in like these pieces of the person inside this character. That is going to make it feel authentic, right?
I think so. Yeah. I think, like, again, I love working with actors because I grew up surrounded by actors and theater actors in particular are very outspoken. They have a lot of ideas. And I love the creative energy that is generated through that, And again, like two heads think better than one.
Sure.
So, and also film is in essence collaborative. So, like it was an experiment. Again, I didn't know that this was going to become a feature or anything, but it was an incredible, happy accident to have found such talented people with such amazing minds with whom I could build the characters with. They were all theater actors that wanted to get into film. And so we began doing a series of workshops, and then one of the exercises was a character creation exercise, where I asked them to create a character that they've always wanted to play, and to create a character that will help heal something within
So
them.
I guess I had assumed that you were doing that with a feature in mind, but yeah, I just didn't think of it that way. But that's so cool. And I think it's so important to always talk about, like, and always remind other people and ourselves that, like, you don't have to have some grand, you don't want to even expect to have some grand, perfect scheme laid out before you push record or before you begin, right?
It took 2 years to like write the script and finance the film till we were able to shoot. But definitely, you know, I think the fun thing about this film is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. Like, there's a talking salamander, you know, like there's a motel run by little people who is like, you know, like it has sadomasochistic shadows in it. So it's like, it's pretty out there. And I think also the fun part is that it was made without expectations. We didn't have an agenda, or like we didn't have like this big message that we wanted to send to the world. We were just a bunch of 20-year-olds playing during the pandemic, doing what they loved, which was, you know, like storytelling, character creation, and so on. It wasn't till we started meeting in person to do improv exercises and like keep playing, but in person, that I started seeing themes, you know. And it was through that I was like, oh, okay, there's potential here to, like, you know, like build a story like an actual film.
And they're always there, right? If you're paying attention, there's always these repeating patterns.
And also, I feel like just trust your collaborators and don't be afraid to write with other people, or like because like, I mean, I wrote the script myself, but the inspiration of some of the characters came from the work that I did with these actors. A lot of the times, you just have to trust that the story is going to reveal itself.
Sure.
Like, I didn't know, you know, like what the story was about, like what the themes were, till I finished writing it for like the first draft. And I was like, okay, this is what it's about.
Legit question about just, it's like a life question. Like, are expectations good for anything? Do you know what I mean? Like, is there more harm than good? It seems like, because it's the whole stoicism thing, isn't it? It's like, once you start expecting something, you fuck yourself up, because when you don't get it, you're upset. You know what I mean?
I think they're harmful if you're basing your like personal worth on that, you know? Like, a lot of artists, and myself included, obviously, but I try to battle with it. We base our self-worth from our work and the way it's received by other people. And that's the perfect recipe for being unhappy.
Yes.
I think expectations are good, like in the sense that, okay, I have these big dreams and I want to achieve them, you know, and I'm going to do everything that's in my power to do that. And I'm going to give my very best, you know, like to reach that. And like, if your expectations or if your goals are so high, you're probably going to fail, you know, but you're probably going to fail above a lot of people's notion of success, you know? So I think in that way, they're good. Like, if you take them from the side of, I'm just going to give my best to see if I can achieve this, you know? It's very important to not, and to remember, because this is hard, to not base your self-worth off of your work, you know, and to remember that you and your work, you know, like they're separate things.
And not even to be a new filmmaker, but even just a filmmaker, because I'm on like my 5th feature film right now, and the edit is, I'm like, fuck, did I do it? I don't know if I spent 3 years as a documentary. I don't know if I spent my time, is this going to be any good? I don't know. And and then I thought, I'm like, this is the exact same thing that happened every single time. So why am I tripping? You know, this self-doubt moment, it doesn't last long, but like, I'm talking about when you're in the edit and you're kind of like trying to find the story, and it's different with documentary a little bit, but it's just crazy. It's like, you know, wait a minute. And then something else kicks in where it's like, you're good, dude. Relax. Just go through the process, you know?
Just trusting it. That's the hardest part, you know, like trusting that, like, maybe you're doing things right now that they're going to be wrong, you know, like, like your first cut is going to be wrong. Your first draft.
Filling it out.
You know, and just trusting that you're going to build off of it. Because, like, you know, like a very common thing is just to get stuck, and because you have such high expectations to just stop doing things, you know, because like a type of writer's block, like I guess it's filmmaker's block,
Yeah,
where
totally.
your expectations are so high that you just prefer not to do it because you don't want to blow your
It's
expectations.
real shit. That's real. Yes.
Real. It's real. And it's so hard to battle that and to remember, like, okay, it's okay to do things that are not perfect. This is part of the process. And I'm going to be building off of it, even if I have to, like undo stuff, redo stuff or change things, but it's just part of the process.
And it's that balance of like trying to, you got to take control to a point, to a degree, but also having the balance to let things be the way that they want to or need to be, to like pay attention, like listen just as much as you talk kind of thing. It's like that kind of balance as a filmmaker.
And also that happens even when you're done with the movie. Like I watch the film and I can see all the errors,
Of course, all the blemishes.
I
yes.
should have done this different, so on. But it's important, like to understand that film you're doing is a reflection of who you were at the moment, and like as long as you feel like you like did the best you could with the best you had, I think that's okay, and it's like okay to let go.
Well, how do you know when the film is done? When you're it kind of leads into our next little final phase, like the editing. How do you know when you're done with the edit?
Personally, when I kept doing things that were fucking it up, and I had to keep on doing things. So it's like, okay, I reached the point where I think this is as good as it's gonna get. Because like if I keep doing things, I'm just gonna mess it up.
I can't. Okay, yeah, okay. So it started getting worse instead of better. You're like, oh, wait a minute.
Exactly.
How did you mix at Sony Picture Studios? How did that come together? That's a beautiful opportunity.
Yeah, it was an amazing opportunity. Well, first, my sound designers were very well connected with Sony. They had worked there before. They had mixed at the theater before, Kim Novak. And also, there was not a lot happening because of the strikes.
Yes.
So they were available, and we got it at a fairly good price as well.
Got you.
And yeah, it was again, like one of those things where my sound designer said, like it sucks for everyone in LA, but it's good for you, like the strikes.
Timing.
We were able to, like it was a dream come true, I think, for any filmmaker to just like the sound design we mixed at the Kim Novak. So
it makes me think of you know where the Frank Capra building is?
Uh-huh.
I had an office right there. So it's like kind of right across ish from the thing. But anyways, I would go there and I would just go at the coffee shop there. And I remember one time I saw the Coen brothers walking from the mixing stage to past us. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, whoa, like, whoa. I mean, that studio, that lot holds a special place in my heart. But I will say, like being a filmmaker and having a little office, thanks to my friend Nancy Kerhofer, who's a big post-production supervisor, and she said, "Hey, I have some extra space. Do you want to come see it?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then next thing I know, I have a fucking office at Sony. Wow. Anyways, but it's interesting because like as a filmmaker, as a creative person, it was really cool and exciting and a big flex, and it, the ego liked it, and like it was good for business. But as far as like going and parking in that parking garage every day and walking through the lot was cool, but then getting into the office, I kind of lost a little bit of creative spark going there.
Wow, that's so interesting. I used to have an office as well, and I felt the same. So I understand. I was in the office for a few months, and then I was like, "This is killing me."
Yeah,
like I need to write in different places. Like if I feel like going, like somewhere outside the city to write, I need to be able to do that.
Yeah, because it's so sterile in there. It's like it's an old editing bay that we were in, but it was just like, I'm not feeling. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You were already saying it. It felt like a cubicle, which is not good for a creative person. And also, I wasn't around filmmakers really. I was around with like executives and worker bees in the studio system, and it's just like they were more concerned with trying to license a film for airlines in that room over there versus, you know what I mean? Kind of cool at the same time. I'm glad. It's also one of those things where the grass is greener, until you get on the other side. And then it's like, I don't need this. I'm glad I did this. I'm grateful for it, but I don't need this. So it's much better just to roll out of bed, in my opinion, and start the coffee and just get to work. That's what I like to do.
I agree. Yeah, I know. I agree with you for sure.
So Sundance, you got Sundance. When did that come in? Like, when did you get notified of that and how did that feel?
It was probably like early November. I was having coffee with my mom and I got the call. Anna Sousa, the Sundance programmer. She gave me the news that they were inviting us to premiere the film in the next category, and I almost like lost it because I love Sundance. You know, it's my favorite festival, and it's honestly a dream come true. Like it's definitely a dream come true, and the whole Sundance team has been incredible. To be honest, like I still cannot believe it sometimes. Like I remember calling my brother, my sister, and my dad and telling them, because again they they were the producers of the film. And it's like, we got into Sundance, and they were like, "What?
Wait, really?
What? This film?" Like it's crazy. Like, and it's our first feature for my siblings as well.
It's so cool.
Yeah, no, it's been incredible.
Was that obviously your dream? Was that your number one choice?
That was my number one choice. Yeah, like ever since I started writing the film, my parents asked me like, "So where do you see it premiering?" Like, and I was like, Sundance.
See, okay.
It's like, and in college too. Like I went to Chapman University, Dutch college.
Oh yeah.
And we were all talking about Sundance.
Yeah.
Like super excited about like one day.
You
There
did
was a friend of ours who worked in a Sundance film. And to us, it was like the coolest thing.
You're still young too, right?
28. Yeah.
Well, I'm an old man. You see my grays right here. Don't even. That's fine. They're irrelevant.
Nah, you're great.
Oh, thank you. Rotterdam. You're going to Rotterdam after this, right? Which seems like a really cool festival as well.
Yeah, I'm super excited too. Like I've never been to the Netherlands, so I'm very, very excited. We're gonna be seeing a few friends there. Bunch of actually our festival agents are coming with us. Well, like one of them is one of my favorite people in the world. So I'm very excited.
Amazing.
And it's just, like having the opportunity to screen with amazing filmmakers, like I see the lineups and I'm like, are you kidding that I'm screening my film with these people?
You need it. It's a rite of passage, right? It's nice to get to those moments and then to kind of just take them off the pedestal a little bit,
Yeah, for sure.
You're going to be somebody that somebody else looks up to, 5 years from now. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and follow us on social media at Past Present Feature. And let us know in the comments section what movies you're watching. Thank you so much for listening to the Past Present Feature podcast, and we'll see you next time. Peace.